In this section, we'll learn about polymorphism. Polymorphism is one of the three characteristics of object-oriented. It's also one of the more difficult ones, is that different objects, when executing the same method, different forms of expression. So he is more abstract. And polymorphism exists in the relationship, is often a relationship of inheritance or implementation. Why is that? Let's talk about the first two of the three characteristics, and then we'll talk about polymorphism. So let's see. Polymorphism is actually a relationship. Look at this. Let's write a class first. Let's say we write a father class. There's a method in father, like y. And then there's an eat method. Okay, and then I write another class. I wrote it directly in the same file. Then he inherits father. Well, in the process of inheritance, we rewrite it. This is called the son eats. So there's a father-son relationship between these two classes. Back to the next. Let's write a test of his class. And let's write a father. Then the son must have eaten, right? Then the father is the one who ate it. The father must have eaten it. Let's see. That means the father eats well. If we say that our type, I can upgrade it to father. This everyone found that the syntax is not a problem. What does this mean? It means a reference to a superclass. Isn't this a reference? It's a reference to a subclass. The object of the subclass is of this type. Is a reference to a subclass of this type. That's why this piece. Let's make sure we're clear on this. By polymorphism, it means that a reference to superclass, to a subclass object. For example, for the sentence we just wrote. When he executes it, watch out. When he executes it, is it still executing subclasses of the content? So when calling the method, executes the, is executed on the subclass. Object of the subclass, the method of the subclass object. Okay, so let's take a look at. Are these two overloads? This is one of the manifestations of polymorphism. Let's summarize. Polymorphism. So the first one overrides. Okay, the second overload. The so-called overloading is that I have the same method in the same class. I have the same method. For example, wide. That's in parentheses. Here we go. Well, write another name string. Okay, so for example, who's eating? Plus eat. At this time we tap on and eat. For example, big-head son. Big-headed son is eating. That means the same method. The method is the same, but we pass different parameters when we call it. Does it have a different behavior? This is also a form of polymorphism. What we're looking at here is overriding. It's the relationship between subclasses and superclasses. We have different objects. He performs different results. Okay, so what is this? This is one of the basic features of polymorphism. Superclasses references point to subclasses. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. You can see, polymorphism is a very important concept in the object-oriented. It's a very important concept in object-oriented thinking. It means that objects of different classes, when calling the same method, for example, if an animal calls, and since each animal's call is different, then you can take an animal type parameter, a parameter of the animal type, when passed a cat object. It will emit the cat's purr. When a canine object is passed in, it makes a canine yelp. So, because of the different parameter types, that's why the different types of arguments is polymorphism. So how do we understand this? To create an animal. Inside the animal there is for example, a call. Then we can write the animal's name in this method. Actually, at this point, this method is optional. At the same time, we're a method. It must not be an abstract method. When a class contains an abstract method, does it have to be an abstract class too? Okay, so we're done creating animal abstract class. Then we'll create its subclasses. Inherit animal. Then we rewrite the shout method. At this point, let's go ahead and write. Okay, one more class cat. Inherit animal. Inside the shout method, we still need to override the shout method, because this method is not an abstract method. It's called mau mau. Okay, so these are the two subclasses. In these two subclasses, let's pay attention in the test class to see. Let's write a test class. What is the use of our polymorphism? Shout method, then this inside. What do I want to pass? It's a dog object. So at this point, shouldn't we have to write something like this and call the methods of the dog object? The method of the last shout. So I want to create this. I'm going to pass in the cat object. And then the box number, and then the cat is passed inside. Cat well at this point on a shout method. Then when you actually call this method, don't forget to add a static. And then add static, because we want to call it with a main method. Then the shout method. At this point, I'm not passing a new dog here. Let's see. This does not reflect the polymorphism. If you're passing a cat here, you still have to know a cat to pass it in. Okay, there's no problem here. Then we will see. This way of writing. If I come up with another subclass of animal, do you have to write another? Under animal, for example, I'll create another one. Let's see, one more class besides dog and cat. Let's write another one. Snake, for example. Inherit animal. And then, what do you call snake? Say silky. At this point, when we're writing our test methods, I have to write a separate method. And this one is called snake. Snake is good, and then snake points to shout. Then when it's called, will everyone can see, this is written and tested without problems. But I add a subclass. I want to test some of the subclass objects. I want to test some of the subclass objects methods. I'm going to have to write a separate method. So can we combine them into one? Because as you can see, that method declarations are really no different. It's just that they have different type parameters. At this point, we can use one method. We can replace it with a method. At this point, we'll use animal to accept it. It'll pass any type of object. That means I don't have to use any of the following methods. When I call them, I only need to call a shout method. This way, you can call the same method and call it. That's one of the benefits of polymorphism, is that we can extend formal parameter of what we can accept. We can extend the acceptance of formal parameter. The benefits of polymorphism. Extending the scope of the acceptance of the formal parameter. So at this point in time, is it possible to receive both animal? Superclass references point to subclass objects. Okay, so the other good thing is increase the acceptance range of this return value. If you want to return an object, for example, we now want to get an object to an object. What should we do? Do you want to return to the top of the paper to write a dog? Yeah, in trying to get a cat. Do you have to write another one? And for snakes, do you have to write snake? So this is cat. Then get a cat. Yes, and then snake. Then can I merge into one? Of course you can. I'll just write it like this. Then the return value is animal. Get an animal. Okay, is it okay for me to new dog? Is new cat also acceptable? Doesn't new snake accept it too? So, I can eliminate the need to write these three methods. it can have this type to accept. This is the benefit of polymorphism. The second point, it extends the range of return values. We're learning two things. The first point is polymorphism. Refers to when a superclass reference points to a subclass object. The advantage is that it extends. The contact range of the formal parameter and extending the range of return values. In addition, there is also a small advantage that it can increase the contact range of the variable. What does that mean? We can make anima is equal to new dog. Yeah, right? I can be equal to new cat, or not. Type. I've expanded the range of reception, right? Okay, one more thing. It also extends the receiving range of this variable. Okay, good. That's all we've learned about polymorphism.